Hello, and welcome to our Tuesday evening workshop. Director Roy, thank you for joining us again. Administrator O'Malley, always a pleasure to see you. Director Roy, please kick us off.
So on Friday night, I sent out a couple of recommendations myself and Brian had taken a look at from the cuts to get down to the $33. I don't know if you want to discuss those, thumbs up, thumbs down, or if you wanted to go through other items.
I think that's a fine place to start, but Councilor Chittum, can you please? Yes.
I was just going to say that's a great place to start, and I would encourage the council to adopt all of the recommendations in Director Roy's Friday, April 26th memorandum.
I have some concerns about some of the recommendations. So we are now moving to 90.9 revenue sharing?
Correct.
Okay. And that still leaves roughly $1 million that we will not be recognizing as revenue?
I have to get to the other sheet. That leaves about $1.1 million, correct.
$1.1 million, okay. So I'm concerned about item number 5, the library temporary building monitor. We're going to be saving, all of these amounts are a lot of money, for sure. But in the grand scheme of things, we're going to be saving $15,000, which, compared to many other things is not a lot, but this will make a tremendous difference for the library, and I urge the councilors to keep this in. Comments on some of these other items? Councilor Glant.
I can start off first with a little bit out of line. The red shop shell, I'd like to remove all 400,000.
Do you mind using your mic, please?
The red shop shell preservation, I'd like to remove all 400,000. I don't think we're in a position this year to do anything. I went and looked at the structure. We've done what it needs to firm it up, and I think that's fine at this time, and that would free up some area as well.
Can we get a thumbs up, thumbs down, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Further comments and questions from the council? Councilor Najin.
I am a little concerned about cutting the additional police positions, but ultimately, if they're not going to have cars, I can move forward with it, I guess.
Councilor Glant.
So on the...
Do you mind using your mic?
Yes,
Thank you.
No, I don't. On the police positions, we did unfreeze 2, correct?
Correct.
And he's getting 1 new.
Correct.
So technically, he's getting a net 3 this year instead of a net 5.
Yes.
I just want to be clear on that. Thank you.
Councilor Harriman.
Thank you. Given the concerns that that the library director mentioned, I'm also a little concerned about that library monitor position, especially if we do approve. I know one of the things he mentioned that could really help them is the public restrooms, and if we do approve those, it's still going to take a little while for them to be constructed. So I wonder about the wisdom of removing that. We could potentially, if it's coming at it a little different direction, but if we just recognized like 91% revenue sharing or 91.1, I don't know exactly how much that would give us, but that might be 15,000 there, and we could potentially find enough by raising that revenue sharing just a tiny bit more to fund some of these other things too.
I'm also concerned about number 3, the benefits and training specialists. Administrator O'Malley, am I right in thinking that we have 2 people in our HR department?
That handle, yes, we have a safety coordinator that we split between the school department. So yes, we have 2 people in our HR department
Maybe
that
two
handle our
and a half.
employees. Yes, but he is split between our employees and then all of the school employees that anytime he handles any investigations, any workman comp claims.
Okay. Yeah. I would like to see us add in, back in number 3 as well. They've been stretched for quite some time. And, you know, when we have like summer positions that need to be filled, you know, all of that just, you know, just requires, you know, you can only save so much time by using computers and everything else. Sometimes it just boils down to how many people you have. And what is our city staff size at this point, Administrator O'Malley?
I believe it's 365, and then we have an additional part-time. I don't have that number in front of me. I can get that for you.
Yeah. For sure, the HR department, with 2 people handling this many staff, is doing an amazing job. But yeah, we need to figure out a way to give them this 3rd person. Councilor Glant?
I'd like to switch gears and quickly, what do we decide on bathrooms? If we do 2, 3 instead of 7, we'd have $200,000 there, which would take care of the 2 things you just discussed. I think we should make a decision on bathrooms. Is that correct?
No.
I mean, that's
bathrooms-
LCIP, right, Councilor?
Sorry, it's fund
And-
balance.
Fund balance.
That's going to be on
okay.
fund balance?
And you can't pay for operational stuff out of fund balance.
You're just no fun, are you?
At Councilor Gland, we're talking about 2 different pots of money.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, we have
Administrator O'Malley, yes.
we have 349 full-time and 96 part-time
Okay.
employees.
96 part-time.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Longchamps.
Yes, I would just like to ask, you guys had recommended removing these items, but it kind of sounds like we really need that one. What is your opinion on that particular position? Can we do without it? Can we really not? I mean, it's here to be removed.
We made these recommendations based on the fact that we haven't hired these people yet, so I'd hate to actually lay off someone or say, well, you can apply for this job, so somebody we already have in our employment. So that's why we made these recommendations. I know we spent a long time Thursday. You folks listened to the department heads. You wanted to add these in. And they are all needed positions. I don't think that we would have brought some forward to you that isn't needed. So it's kind of up to you. I'm sure my HR director, if she was here, she would be very happy that we're having this discussion. But, you know,
We've got
that's going to be your
some
call in
cuts.
terms of what the city can handle for a tax increase. Yes, I would say only having 2 employees for 349 full-time employees is not a lot in terms of an HR division, and she needs somebody for help, do benefits with her, but she said she will survive another year if she has to, but she would like to have this position.
Councilor Stoll.
Can we use any of the fund balance for one time and then put the position into the budget next season?
No, because it's an actual operational position.
Okay.
Councilor Chittum.
Thank you. I'd like to talk about the library temporary building monitor. We have tentatively approved special security for that. The understanding, we have currently 2 library floor monitors at $15,000 apiece, and we were contemplating hiring an additional.
Nope, they have 2 positions. One's currently vacant, because they have a hard time keeping that position. And then they have one that's been there for a while.
Right, but it's funded for 2 positions in the current budget.
No, because he ended up removing it by mistake when he did his budget. Because he was looking at the savings of the security on the new form, and where he was new, he didn't realize he had to keep that portion in the budget until you guys approved. So that was removed out of the budget.
Okay, so as it stands right now, before we address anything on item 5, the library temporary building monitor for $15,000, we have tentatively approved the hiring of a $30,000 security officer, and he has a $15,000 library monitor. And this would add a second library monitor, which he tells us he doesn't have the ability to retain, because it's a tough job at low wages with a lot of abuse.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that as it stands right now, he has a building monitor in person and financially, and he has potentially the authority to hire a security guard.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Director Roy, I understand there's opposition to move past 90.9% revenue sharing, but, I'm concerned that, the state does a really good job of forecasting that. They've already applied a level of conservatism to that number. Many municipalities are booking that number at 100%, and I guess I'm just trying to understand the rationale for us not doing that, or at least coming much closer to 100% than we are now.
Rationale is so that down the road, because you want to look ahead, you don't just budget for the year, you budget ahead as you do as you home. We don't want to have a cliff and have to go and raise taxes, or either do what we had to do 15 years ago and lay off at least 30 people or more. So it's looking ahead to what can be there for projects and what can be there so that you're not having to increase tax rate or either remove individuals.
The CMP project that is they're continuing to work at that site. If I remember right, the other night, we had realized maybe $3 million of valuation from that.
So they are looking
Or can
to-
you recap that, please?
Is Lincoln here? So they're looking at TIFing that, so that amount would be sheltered. So that would not be going into the operational budget. That would be going into, for projects and stuff, that would be TIFed.
Some of that money would also be used for positions, correct?
Yes, to cover the economic, since the Walmart TIF is going away this year, they will need to have another TIF come in that would cover salaries.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Najin?
My opinion is if we're moving to an 8% floor on our fund balance, there's absolutely no way that we can look at 100% or even a 95% value revenue sharing position, simply because of the fact that with the current staff and the new programs we're looking at, the steps and COLAs alone are going to create a situation, if we don't get new economic activity within the community, that the tax increase will occur again next year. And so I'm absolutely opposed to changing the amount of revenue sharing if the floor on the general fund is 8%. So.
Director Roy, we had approximately, $700,000 left to spend in fund balance to get, was that to be at 10% or to be at 8%?
So with removing the 400,000, you're now at 443,000 to get to the 10%, because you removed the red shop. So the LCIP is still over that 100%, so we're looking at moving, if that was gonna come up, the red shop being moved, we're looking to move 400 from the LCIP to the fund balance, to bring that down to the 100% LCIP that was looked at for a percentage, and that would bring your fund balance to 10%.
Right, so at this point, we're not heading to 8% for fund balance.
No.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Councilor Chittum?
Yeah, if I could recap for my own understanding, we are now looking at a financial mix of 90.9%, budgeting 90.9% of the already anticipated state revenue sharing. We're looking at maintaining a fund balance level of 10%, giving us a 2% window if we choose to use it. And we are looking at maintaining a 100% ratio of debt retired for the LCIP. With the inclusion of the 10 recommendations that you've made, where does that put us on those three figures?
So with this, you're at $33 for tax rate, you're at 10% for fund balance, and you're at your 100% for LCIP, where you want to be. So your tax rate would be $33.
All right.
If you agree upon this.
Okay, well, that's I guess, the best that we can do under the circumstances. I'm not at all excited about a $33 tax rate. However, I do want to acknowledge Councilor Harriman's pointing out that, and I spent some time looking at your summary this afternoon. He had distributed a spreadsheet indicating that over the past 20 years, our tax rate has not kept pace with inflation. I realize that's cold comfort to people who are looking at a 10% increase in their tax bills this year, because very few people look back 15 years and say, oh, we're far better off than we would have been if we'd kept up with inflation. It does make economic sense. We in Lewiston are looking at some severe structural problems with our financial models, and now is not the time to address that. We should be thinking about that as we go into the next budget season. We have so many fixed costs that we have no control over. We have a limited tax base. We have constraints that we have imposed on ourselves and constraints that have been imposed on us by the state. Just look at the increase in the school budget, for example. We need to do some serious reconsiderations of how we fund this city. And I think today, or next Tuesday more properly, if we can achieve the goals of 10% fund balance, 100%, and I'm not happy with that at all, because it means that we're maintaining our debt load. I'm pleased that we're not increasing it. I'd like to see it decline. 100% LCIP borrowing, bonding, and maintaining only a 10% tax increase, then I think we have, and I don't remember the colloquialism, but we've made lemonade to the best of our abilities.
Councilor Najin?
Out of curiosity, if we were to move down to like, let's say a 9%, what could we move from LCIP? How far, like, what are the two numbers that we need to get to in order to, without increasing the tax base?
So for 9% of fund balance, the total would be 7,000,009. So with what's in there now, currently 5,000,008 for projects, you could do another 2 million from LCIP.
And that would get us down to, so if we took another 2 million from LCIP, we would be at pretty close to 80%, right?
Yes, because right now, currently, as is, I haven't moved the 400,000 out. It would be an estimated 1.6.
So this is a consideration for everyone, I think. Ultimately, the money borrowed, we pay back, obviously. I would really like to keep the 80% rule if at all possible, or as close to it as possible. I think by keeping that extra 10% in revenue sharing, we do have a pad. And I do want to say this, you know, with the reevaluation and what's going on with the reevaluation, we absolutely need to expand our tax base urgently, and I hope that every department head is looking at efficiencies within their own departments, underutilized employees, whether or not they need to be splitting time with other divisions, other ways in which every single department touches economic development. That's just my opinion, and so I would urge, it's kind of like the year before the evaluations come in, to really get something done this year. And that's just my take. But how does everybody feel about possibly raising or dropping the floor to 9% and moving that extra money into the LCIP projects that are already there in order to come close to hitting that 80%?
Councilor Chittum?
I'm very much in favor of reducing the amount of money that we borrow. If if memory serves, we are spending $1.6 million a year to use other people's money. It's not gaining anything for us. It's an outlay. And if we can reduce our debt, then that money comes back to us. So I'm in favor of ideally keeping the 80%. We've been told that we can maintain 100% right now, and I'm a little fuzzy on the numbers. But if we can drop the fund balance from 10% to 9%, and I understand Director Roy has, I don't want to say grave, maybe she does have grave concerns about reducing that. But if it can save us paying interest on bonds that we issue, I'm in favor of that. So I like the idea, Councillor Najin.
Councillor Harriman.
I'd also be in favor of going down to 9%, but keeping the caution in mind that Councillor Najin mentioned of, we can't keep dropping the floor of the fund balance and raising the revenue sharing, because the revenue sharing eventually goes into fund balance. But I'd be in favor of dropping that to 9% so we can borrow less money.
Further comments? Councillor Glant.
So what does 9% give us, Director Roy? Difference between 9 and 10 for money?
So that would be the $1.6 million. So looking at the 9% with the 400 moved over, that covers the other piece, it'd be $1.6 million.
That we could still spend?
And then we're at, after moving that 400 over, we're at $1.7 million. But there is, if you remember when we were going over LCIP, there are some old interests that I'd like to use up. So I could move that $100,000 difference to be covered by old projects that we had, interest that hasn't been used.
And before we move on, I would like the council to consider, some of the costs. I understand with these 10 items, we are, it appears that we're saving money, but, take for instance, library monitor position. If it were to be filled, and I understand we've had some issues filling it, Administrator O'Malley, with the security in place, has there been a reduction in calls to the police from the library?
Yes, there has. There's been a significant decrease in calls. And I think Director Houston spoke in front of you folks last week where he likes that hybrid model of having the uniform presence of the security guard and then with the building monitor who's been there for quite some time. But he does have difficulty filling that second position.
Yeah.
I spoke to him. I'm sure he appreciates your support, but I spoke to him. He was willing to say, yes, I'll give up that and we can continue this program and see how that goes. And then if it doesn't work and he comes back to you next year, he's really only asking for a little over $15,000.
I'm just concerned that we're just not going to have the hours of coverage that's needed at the library security-wise. And then take for instance the benefits and training specialist. In all likelihood, this will likely help with retention and reduce staff turnover. So those are kind of hard costs to quantify, but I'm not. There are going to be costs associated with us saving this money. Councillor Glant.
Thank you, Mayor. In line of what you're saying, could we not move the deputy fire chief to 6 months delay and a planning technician to 6 months delay and get back our benefits and training specialists? It's about a $90,000 difference.
So I just want to caution you on that, because next year, I didn't even like doing the 3 months, because next year they're going to be in the budget for full, plus an increase in salary. So you're going to just put yourself deeper in the hole next year.
But it'd be 90,000. I think I would personally not worry about anticipating 90,000 next year approximately for those two positions in order to get her the assistance she needs this year and be able to move things forward and hoping that's positive. That would be my thought. That way we're still reducing, but we're going to gain a person. And so I understand your concerns, but that's where my mentality would go.
Councillor Chittum.
Thank you, Councillor Glant. I appreciate Director Roy's concern. this would add people to the payroll, which is an ongoing, forever cost until we bite the bullet and say we've got to fire people. So I'm not in favor of that. I would prefer not to delay these other hirings for 6 months for a one-time deal that would then give us the money for this year only to hire a benefits and training specialist. So I appreciate your position. I understand it, but I'm not in favor of that.
Councillor Najin.
I would just say, I do believe a benefits and training specialist would be fantastic for the employees of the city. I do believe that. I also know that you've already had discussions where HR was comfortable with struggling, or not comfortable necessarily, but willing to harsh it out one more year. I think about the deputy fire chief in concern to the inspections with the licensing and egresses and things like that. Ultimately, any position that we can get faster turnaround on both enforcement that will generate revenues and licensing that will get new development, I think that we literally have to, direct the city that way. It's just my opinion.
Yes, Councillor Chittum.
Mr. Mayor, could we have a thumbs up and thumbs down on these 9 items on Director Roy's recommendation?
Did any further comments before we do that, or questions? Do you want to do them as a group or one by one?
One by one, Mr. Mayor.
All right, are we, let's start with revenue sharing. Are we okay with where Director Roy has positioned us? Okay. And removing the 2 police officers. Okay. Let me see. Benefits and training specialist.
Just to be clear, thumbs up indicates we are in agreement with the recommendation to cut that position.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just wanted to make certain that we
Yes,
all
we
are
are.
voting the same way. No, I'm sorry, I don't want us all to vote the same way.
We are asking the council how they feel about these cuts, whether they would like to see them or not. Okay. We are on number 3 now. Benefits and training specialists for the director's position. Or director's benefit, rather. Okay. Solid waste worker. Okay. Library temporary building monitor.
I'm just keeping myself.
Deputy fire chief, the delay. And the planning technician, the delay. And then building division worker, public bathroom and parking garage, delay for 2 months. Okay. And then number 9, moving some items, moving some things around. Okay. And then, so Auburn, one quick second. So Auburn reduced their contributions by 50,000?
Correct.
And what was the reason for that?
There was 2 vacancies that the director put in to get 2 extra positions, and Auburn didn't agree with that. So they were reducing theirs from what the request was, 50,000.
Okay. And we're simply matching them at this point?
Correct.
Councillor Chittum?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, do we have an obligation to match Auburn? I realize that if we don't match Auburn, then we become more of a funding agency for 911 than they are. But is there some kind of contractual arrangement that we have to contribute the same amount?
There's an MOU, I believe, and that's why the director stated if Auburn was reducing their budget 50,000, he would have to reduce his full budget 100,000, because Lewiston would then be reduced 50,000.
What's the effect on Poland? Do we know?
What's the effect on?
Poland.
Councilor Chittum? Poland has a separate contract with the 911 dispatch center, so that isn't affected.
Okay.
They pay a set fee.
Thank you. I am slightly concerned about this because I know that there's been discussion about increasing the 911 to accommodate some dispatch to United Ambulance Service. There's been quite a bit of discussion about that in the background. We've been told by Director Hall, is it, that this dispatch discussion would result in the hiring of, would require the hiring of 2 additional over and above the positions that are vacant. So that's just to be thrown in the mix as well. So I am a little leery about cutting the 50. I'm glad to not to spend the money, but on the other hand, this is a service that the cities of Lewiston and Auburn and the town of Poland require. We can't ignore this, and I am concerned. I'm still learning about the differences between dispatch of United Ambulance and dispatch of Lewiston Fire and Police. I guess in the long run, I am in favor of this for the implications, and also because apparently we have no choice. So if we don't have a choice, then it's an easy vote.
Administrator O'Malley, if the council did not agree with Auburn, what would happen? We'd go back and have negotiations with them, or?
It's an interlocal agreement where it's a 50-50 split. So if they choose not to fund 50,000, as Director Roy said, then they're going to have to cut their budget by 100,000.
No, I understand that, but like if we wanted to go back and talk with Auburn and say, hey, why?
This is what he submitted to his city council. So I guess if their city council says no, it has the same concerns that Councilor Chinham, I'm sure a few others of you have on the council have, they could deny that, but that's his recommendations that he's making to his city council.
Okay.
So I guess we could say if they fund it, the full 50 amount, but as Councilor Chinham pointed out, this was to get 2 positions just to handle their current call volume, and then there was discussions in the background of adding 2 additional ones to handle the EMS calls, which would be actually 4 new positions at the dispatch center, which would be more than the $50,000 to do that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so how does the council feel about accepting this reduction? Counselor, or did you have something, Counselor Nagy?
I was just going to say, I think a lot is still in flux concerning the 911 call center overall, and also UAS. And so, you know, I think about intermunicipal agreements, and I think about the fact that Auburn has its own emergency service. And, you know, there's a question there on whether or not we could make an intermunicipal agreement with Auburn, for instance. But not to go too far down that rabbit hole, at some point we have to have discussions about all these pieces and figure out where they all fit.
Thank you, Councilor Nagy. Okay, so we are, how does the council feel about accepting this reduction? Okay, thank you. Director Roy, what's,
So there was, in the email, I just reminded all of you that the nonprofit did come in front of you. Not that I'm saying you want to add anything, I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that only 100,000 is in there for the Liberty Festival for the fireworks.
you mean 10,000?
I mean 10,000, sorry.
That would be a lot of fireworks.
Be fireworks over the fireworks.
Yes. I recommend to the council, so certainly they can make 10,000 work, but I happen to know that results in a reduction in the amount of fireworks that we're able to purchase, and so the show shortens. You know, there's different ways to finagle that. The show could be the same length, but there's just not be as many fireworks during the same amount of time, and so on and so forth. I would love to up it to the requested 2,500, because then this would also result in another 2,500 from, I believe, Auburn, and we could have a really great show this year. Not that it wasn't great last year, but Councilor Chittum.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are some people, myself included, who are not fans of fireworks. So I think you need to take into consideration that there are people out there who are adversely affected by displays like this. Some people may well enjoy them, but others equally do not enjoy them.
Councilor Nagy.
I would just like to say overall, while I would love to support nonprofit services, especially ones that deliver a benefit to the entire community, we're talking about increasing the tax base right now, and any one of our citizens can donate to any one of these groups. Either donate time, effort, money, however it works out. And so with the tax increase, I just can't, I'm comfortable with the $10,000 for the fireworks. I would even be comfortable with the 12.5, but not a penny more for anyone else until it stops coming off the back of our taxpayers who are looking at paying more right now.
Councilor Harriman.
Thank you. Yeah, looking at this list of cash requests, I'm fine with the 10,000 that's already in our budget for fireworks. Like Councilor Najin, I'd be okay with the increased 2,500 as well. And then I would just also advocate for the $1,000 for the Rally for Recovery, partly because it's sort of a city-sponsored event. But all the other requests, I would say we've kind of maxed out at this point.
Administrator O'Malley, Rally for Recovery, I mean, it's not just a city-sponsored event. It is a city event, right? It's put on by the Public Health Committee?
Yes, it is. It's part of
Okay,
the
and then
public health question.
did they get money from the budget last year, or?
I believe we did, and I'm thinking we might have taken out of the opioid money, but I'm not sure. I could check with Director Roy on that.
Okay.
On the opioid settlement funds, I think that's what we took it out last year.
And is there money to do that again?
If we did take it out of that account, if she's checking right now, there would be.
Correct. We did receive more than enough to cover those two mental health workers. Just want to,
So we can use some of that settlement money to pay for Rally for Recovery?
correct, if, I'm pretty sure that's where it came from last year, too.
I recommend to the council that we do that. Further questions or comments about this? Councilor Gallant?
Thank you, Mayor. So we're saying currently none of these are in the budget? I'm a little confused.
Correct.
So the $1
So
million
they-
to the Franklin Centers ain't there either?
Correct.
The only thing that's in the budget is 10,000 out of the 12,500 for Liberty Fest.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor sorry, please continue, Councilor Gallant.
I really think the Summer Fun and Films, I've worked it and been involved with it for kids. That's huge. It gets kids out at night and parents. There's always activities there. There's always people handing out, good, valid information to help youth. I'd want to see that covered at some percent or somehow from us, because it's another activity for our youth, and we don't have enough activities now for our youth.
Councilor Chittum, did you have something?
Thank you, yes. And I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to raise this issue or not, but in going through all of the various paperwork that Director Roy has given us, I've discovered that three years ago, the council set aside $2 million for a nonprofit. And I'm wondering what the city's obligation is in that regard and whether there's a way to claw that back.
Are you referring to the $2 million for Main Mill?
It was for Museum LA, which is now Main Mill. Yes, that's exactly what I'm referring to.
Okay. Director Roy, your thoughts on clawing back that money?
I believe they came forth at one of the council meetings to present to you the new facility. I wasn't here that night to show you what the 2 million would cover. Do you remember?
I'd handed out their strategic vision, one of our meetings. The original meeting was held December 7th, 2021, so I believe we have an agreement signed with them that they had to raise a certain amount of funds to match to get this $2 million, and I believe they're well on their way to doing that. So I would have to probably talk to the city attorney if we're going to break that MOU that we have with them.
Okay, I looked at the council action and I did not see in that action any conditions as to how much money Main Mill would have to raise or what percentage of construction would have to be completed before this $2 million was released. But if there is a separate legal binding document, I would like to explore that.
I will check on that, Counselor.
Thank you, Administrator O'Malley.
Just as a general comment here, I'm extremely loath to change actions of prior councils. You know, we need organizations, companies, individuals to trust us and to trust the city's word. I understand that was not our decision, but yeah, I think that would just set an extremely bad precedent. And in fact, I happen to know that the main mill is expecting to break ground this year. And yeah, it's going to be a fantastic addition to our community. Councilor Najin.
Just to come back to what I said originally, where I was comfortable with doing the full 12.5 for Liberty Festival, I'd be happy with the 11.5, using that 1,000 to cover Rally for Recovery, and I am quite sure that the folks that run Summer Film Fun and Films will be able to raise those funds. So I'm more worried about programming that we want to put in place where there may be a challenge to raise those funds, just to say that.
Councilor Harriman. Or, sorry, 1 second. Councilor Director Roy, did you want to chime in for a second?
So yes, last year, the flyers, porta potties, supplies were all paid out of the opioids. So that could be paid out of there, the 1,000.
Oh, for the Rally for Recovery.
Correct.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yes, Councilor Harriman.
Thank you. Yeah, I would just put in another plug for the Summer Fun and Films to be, I know there might be an issue with that being in the police operating budget, but if that could be, that community engagement piece should really be an operating cost for the police department going forward.
Administrator O'Malley, isn't there a separate organization for Summer Fun Films?
Yeah, it's its own separate 501(c). And I believe it's housed over at the chamber.
Yeah, I believe you're right. They're the fiscal sponsor. Councilor Najin, you said something about 11.5, or did you mean 12.5? Where?
Well, now that the 1,000's coming from the opioid funds, then I would support the full 12.5 for the fireworks. But again,
I see. Okay.
I think every other piece of this, either the folks who run the organizations have the capacity and to raise those funds, or they're not benefiting the entire community.
Councilor Chittum.
Yes, I would like to oppose Councilor Najin on that. Based on my arguments before about fireworks, I would prefer to stay with the 10,000. I prefer to go to 0, but 10,000 would be acceptable. I do want to put a plug in for KBH. I visited the, what's the name of it? Councilor Roy?
The clubhouse.
Thank you, the clubhouse this afternoon, and those folks are doing fantastic work. They are supported by Kennebec Behavioral Health. And I think that $1,000 to them is a token spent in the right direction.
At this point, councilors, I guess I would like to have a thumbs up and thumbs down on the items that have been mentioned. We're talking about Kennebec, we're talking about the Liberty Festival, and we're talking about Summer Fun and Films. Councilor Herman, did you have something?
I wonder if it would just make sense to go through the whole list of cash requests and thumbs up and thumbs down them.
I mean, I think it would just make sense to go through the ones that the councilors mentioned, but Councilor Chittum?
Well, I did want to talk about the significant request of the Franco Center. I know the Director Scammon was here and presented the challenges facing that structure, and this is a very precise number. I'm failing to recall where that number came from, but I'm sure it's well justified, and I'm wondering whether or not the council wants to donate anything to the Franco Center, and if so, does it have to be the whole 1.038638?
Councilor Chittum.
Thank you.
From the presentation they had the other night, that was part of their whole capital improvement project. They were looking for, I believe it was $250,000 from the city.
They were looking for 250.
250,000. The 1,038,638. That was their entire capital program, but they were trying to do that in stages. But they were looking for the city to donate $250,000. I believe was the number.
Okay, phew. So that 1.03 million comes out, and now is a request for 250, a $250,000.
Since we have not talked about the Franco Center yet, thoughts from the councilors about them requesting $250,000 from us. Councilor Harriman.
Thank you. I know they do good work and they've got a lot of needs there, but I would stick with just funding the Rally for Recovery and the Liberty Festival. I mean, we gave the Franco Center, I think, $2 million a year or two ago. I think that was in our materials.
It was 650,000.
It was 650. Okay. Yeah, I think that it's just too tight right now.
Yeah, I would agree that if we're concerned about even spending like, an additional 2,500, 250,000 is substantially more than that. Director Roy, has all of you said 600,000, has that all been transferred to the Franco Center at this point?
650,000, correct.
Oh, 650,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, it's all been, they did a little bit in 2022, but the bulk of the project was in 2023.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Najin.
I think the Franco Center is an important heritage center within our community. I think the structure itself is a very important historic structure within our community as well. And I would urge both the board to double down on their fundraising and revenue generation capacity, and the residents of the city who care about it to support their programming. And make donations. It's a tough thing, but this is a considerable sum. We just removed a position for HR that was $90,000. So it's hard for me knowing how important the Franco Center is. I used to live in Manchester, New Hampshire, and the Franco Center is basically one half the river, and it's an incredibly important cultural asset. But it's also one that people have to invest in, and it can't come off the back of the taxpayers at this point, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you, Councilor Najin. The Franco Center is, acoustically speaking, probably the best performance venue in all of Maine, but I just can't see supporting this at this very second, based on how much the tax rate's already going up. Councilor Chittum.
Yeah, so I guess I'm lost as to where we are in this. We're talking about some, I wonder if we could focus on those 2 or 3 items that I believe the council seems to feel are meritorious of nonprofit donations, and then do a thumbs up, thumbs down on those, and those that aren't mentioned would be, thank you very much for asking us, but we don't have the money right now.
Yes, at this point, yes, thank you, Councilor Chittum. Just for clarity's sake, since the Franco Center was discussed, we'd be talking about a thumbs up, thumbs down for Franco Center, Kennebec Behavioral Health, Liberty Fest, and Summer Fun and Films. Although we did not have an amount for Summer Fun and Films. Councilor Gallant, I believe you spoke the most about that. Did you have an amount you wanted to put forth before we?
I'd like to do 5,000.
Do you mind using your mic?
I would like to do 5,000.
Yeah, okay. All right. Are there any other questions or comments from councilors? Councilor Chittum.
Yes, Franco Center, are we looking at $250,000 or nothing? Is that the decision?
That's what I was going to suggest, unless somebody would like to suggest a different amount.
I'd like to give them 1.038 million, but my pockets are empty.
Yeah, at this point, failing another amount, yes, how does the council feel about funding the Franco Center for $250,000? Okay. How does the council feel about funding Kennebec Behavioral Health for $1,000? That is moving forward. And then remembering that $10,000 is already in the budget for Liberty Festival, funding another $2,500, which I assumed would be matched by hopefully another $2,500 from Auburn. How does the council feel about that? Okay. And then we are now at summer fun and films, funding that for $5,000. How does the council? All right, that is moving forward. So to recap, we have Kennebec Behavioral Health for $1,000 and summer fun and films for $5,000. Rally for Recovery was already coming from the opioid.
right.
Yeah, which, right. Thank you, Director Roy. Councilor Harriman, did you have something?
I just wanted to make sure we touch on the in-kind requests as well. I think most everyone was okay with those, but just to make sure before we get everything finished up.
That was indeed my recollection. Do we have those handy, the in-kind requests? Well. And all of these events, Administrator O'Malley, they filled out the event application, and they're all go at this point.
Yes, and we have, Gerald from LA Arts was here, that has been updated for them blocking off the street, so that's why you'll see a number there of 1625 was different than the last number we had. So we've updated those since they were last presented to you folks. And this is all in kind, this isn't money, this is overtime for Public Works and for the police department. But it is money, but it's coming out of the department's budgets.
Correct. That they are, and the department's budgets already reflect this, correct?
Majority of them do, yes. I mean, some of these, you're waiving a permit, so we're not getting, fees that we would get. But for the overtime for the police and Public Works, they take that into account when they do their budgets.
Okay, thank you. Questions from councilors about anything on the sheet? Councilor Longchamps.
Yes, so the block party, although I don't benefit from it financially at all, but it is my event, so I think I should not vote on that, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you do not benefit financially, you can feel free to.
Okay.
Conflict of interest is very narrowly defined for us.
No, it's not.
Any other? Councilor Chittum?
Yeah, I would suggest that we take a blanket thumbs up, thumbs down on this $69,025 in-kind request.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly support that. This represents summer for us here in Lewiston, and I'm looking forward to attending most, if not all, of these events. Councilor Najin, did you have something?
I was just going to move the question.
Okay. Yeah. How are we feeling about this, councilors? Okay. Director Roy, what's next here?
That would conclude it if there are no other items. I'll put together the resolve with all the adjustments and the amounts, and we'll be good for Tuesday night.
Councilor Gallant, did you have something?
Did we decide on how many outhouses, toilets, bathrooms?
And that was coming out of fund balance or LCIP, Director
That's
Roy?
coming out of fund balance.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, did we, what is in there right now? Are all 7 in there for 350?
Yes.
Okay, I recommend that we keep all 7. I realize that Portland did them in stages, and they want to see how it works, and we can gain the benefit of that. We now know they work, and there's really no need for us to do it in stages, and we'll be having a full-time person that we could keep very busy with all 7. Councilor Harriman, did you have something?
Thank you. I just wanted to see where we're at with moving LCIP items to the fund balance and what we ended up settling on for a floor for fund balance.
So
I
we
believe it was
sent
9%.
Mr. Mayor?
9%.
Counselor Chittum, did you have something?
Before we do that, could we have a little further discussion on the toilets? I know you have a recommendation, sir, but the other councilors need to weigh in on that too, I think.
Yeah, for sure, we will. Councilors Harriman switched gears just a little bit, and that's okay. But yeah, we're coming back to that. None of that's been decided yet. Director Roy, do you want to answer Councilor Harriman's questions?
Correct, so 9%. So once I move projects over from LCIP, that will bring it down to the 8%, and then the fund balance will be at 9%.
Okay, so you'll move the items.
80%, sorry.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter which items get moved, you'll just move some.
Correct, and
to
then
make it-
you'll see that in your resolve that you'll be voting on Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
And now back to public restrooms. Councilor Gallant.
I have a concern is we're gonna be delaying the hiring of the person who cleans it, and if they show up all of a sudden, who's gonna clean them?
I mean, I understand it would take some time to procure them. Administrator O'Malley, please.
It's my understanding, and Director Cagney is here, that they have to actually pour the pad and put it down, and then they have to construct them. So we'll let them know once it's approved, they'll begin construction. But there is going to be a delay in us getting them placed. So that will allow, that's why we did the, I think it was 2 months delay in hiring that person, because of the delay in getting everything delivered and set up.
All right, thank you.
We won't have them operating without PW having hired somebody to clean them.
It's good thinking, Administrator O'Malley. Councilor Najin.
There are two pieces I just want to bring up with the toilets. I am in support of the 7 toilets. I think that there should be some type of mechanism in which they can be locked if they need to be. So I just wanted to bring that up, however that looks. And then also, if we find that we do need to move toilets for whatever reason, what's the cost on the pads? Just so I have an understanding of like what the expense would be there.
Director Gagne, please join us at the table. I've been trying to wave you in.
Good evening. We'll have to look at the breakdown. Yes, we can definitely move a toilet. So if it's in a location that's not optimal or needs to be moved, we can definitely do that. The concrete pads, from my understanding, would be a cast in place, so Megan did up the estimates, or
They're $6,600 each.
Move them.
Can we move them?
Yes.
I'm not sure how, probably a crane, I'm not sure how we would move them. They are 9 by 15, 9 feet by 15 feet.
so generally the way we would construct it is some very basic rebar cast in place, and not necessarily make it with lifting rungs and be able to, so it's a bearing, not necessarily a support itself if we were to lift it up. But we can look at that and make sure that we're not just wasting money.
I'm just considering the possibility that if we do have to move one at some point, like, the structure that needs to be around it.
And the other thing is, these were tentatively placed. Each site will have a location. We'll bring it back to you about our proposed and try to have a public process on the ideal location. We're not going to plop it in the middle of a park, but we do want to make it so that it's easy and visible and seen and not hidden, but not be the central focal point of any of these areas, so.
Thank you. Councilor Roy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the things I wanted to point out is if in the future we want more bathrooms, we shouldn't be moving those paths if we're looking at that, right? So I think we should probably just leave them there. Would be my thing.
Councilor Harriman.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm fully in support of all 7 of them. I think it's long overdue, and especially the ones in the downtown area, I think are going to help the businesses down there. So, in support.
Councilor Gallant.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not against having them. Would it be cost-effective to do a double pad in some places like Samard Park? If we decided to move them, if we were talking about doing events in the future, if you put 2 pads in, I'm sure the cost would be somewhat reduced than an individual pad possibly. It's a foundation, so they could be side by side. I might want to venture that you might want to consider that cost that were there if we had to put two side by side for a place like that, for an event or something coming on, then it would already be in place and would be an added expense later. So that'd be my recommendation, at least check it out. Thank you.
Director Gagne, it's not my expectation that we're moving these things around every 2 weeks. It would be like a, kind of a permanent mover. We'd have to re-pour
Yeah.
the slab and then move the structure. And if we had an event, could certainly augment the restroom, that we're buying now with porta potties, as we currently do now.
True.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Councilor Chittum?
Thank you, Director Roy. There has been some discussion about 7 versus 5 versus 3. If we were to purchase 3 of these this year, the $200,000 savings would go where? Remind me where this money is coming from.
So this is coming from fund balance. So when we do a fund balance allocation, we put that budget in line item, and then if the project's not used to its fullest and it's still got some to go, it gets carried forward so that it can be used the next fiscal year.
All right, so in other words, if we were to authorize only 3 toilets this year instead of 7, there would be $200,000 remaining in the fund balance, which would take our floor from 10 to, or 9, where are we now, 9?
We're at 9.
We're at 9. It would take us from 9 to 9.2 or 9.1 or something, is that correct?
Hold on. Let me remove.
While we do that, Councilor Najin, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, one of the points that I had made earlier, I think it's a pretty valid one. We're hiring somebody to do the sanitation, so I'd be pretty concerned with the other 57% of that person's time if they weren't cleaning all 7 toilets. So I would, again, urge all of the directors to make sure that all their staff are being fully utilized.
Did you have that, Director Roy, or?
I'm calculating it.
No, we've got time. It's not even close to 10 o'clock yet. Councilor Chittum.
Yes, to Councilor Najin's point, Director Gagne indicated that the time that this new sanitation, or new public works employee would not be cleaning toilets would be well used in the Public Works Department, isn't it?
Correct. They're in the buildings division, so they would be utilized to supplement the work they do in other public spaces around this building and the the armory, other public spaces to support that small building division staff. Also, winter operations, they're cleaning sidewalks and sand and salting, so.
Director Gagne, I have an unpleasant question. We currently have public works staff utilized cleaning up human excrement right now on public property. Is that correct?
We do.
Yeah. And so, we've seen the map, councilors. This represents decent coverage throughout the city, and I think it would allow everyone the chance to use the restroom in an actual bathroom, and then free up public works employees to do other things. Councilor Longchamps.
I know this question was asked when we first started discussing this, but will all 7 be able to go up this year if we did vote for the 7?
We expect that if we ask for it, we would get it accomplished, yes.
And your recommendation is to put all 7, is it? Can you?
This was a previous request.
Yeah, I know.
So we carried it forward for a second ask. So I think it's fairly distributed around our public parks. I think, we were looking the other day of how it would support some of the downtown, Kennedy Park, some of the other parks and adjacent. So we have porta potties up around Lake Auburn as part of the Auburn Water District and the Lewiston Water Division efforts to allow people to recreate in those spaces and have someplace to go that's sanitation. So I believe that I recommend this.
This amount.
absolutely, listen to the other directors, and what we can get done, we will get it done this year.
Also, and I'm sure this question was asked too, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating it, but do they lock? Can you lock them?
There is a latch, so if somebody's using it, it will be locked.
No, I mean, like,
And-
if you have to lock them for some reason.
Correct. So I think these will be locked and lockable.
One quick question. So is there a light inside?
Yes, there's a solar power, there's a solar
right,
on
yes,
the,
okay.
in lighting inside, so these don't need power, they're standalone.
And I am in favor of them, just so you know.
Yep.
Administrator O'Malley, you seem to be in favor of them at a previous meeting. Is that how you still feel?
Oh, I am, and I did forward to you folks some public comment that came in from one of our downtown businesses describing the issues they are facing without public restrooms. So I am in full support of these public restrooms, and hopefully you folks are too.
Councilor Najin?
One of the things, especially in the downtown area, we have food pantries that people are tracking feces into the food pantries. They have to do cleaning in order to keep messes out of their space. We have restaurants that are begging us to help. We have we have an inn right across the street that will tell you how important it is to have a bathroom. And so, in all of those pieces, I would like to say, if I'm hoping this absolutely cuts down on some of those pieces, but if we're still having issues, there does have to be some type of enforcement action somehow. So,
Councilor Glant?
First, I am for, so we'll clear that air. Secondly, is if you think it's gonna make a difference in doorways, you don't understand homeless people. Quite frankly, if they're down the street and they're gonna find a doorway, you think they're gonna walk up here somewhere else? It's not gonna happen. Those of us who deal with it on a regular basis, watch them do it in their own camps. And there's places they could go outside of the camp, not to do it there. So I am hoping it's gonna be great for our public, but a lot of these places and people who are complaining, to be quite frank with you, I would hope you keep track, because I'll bet you next year we'll have a discussion about you didn't see a lot of reduction in those areas. So if that's what the thought is, I'm sorry, I don't think you're gonna see it.
Administrator O'Malley, we are, if I remember the map correctly, we are putting one near the vicinity of the Oak Street parking garage.
That was one of the proposed locations, yes.
Right, and people are now currently relieving themselves in the stairway of the Oak Street parking garage.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, it stands to reason that if a restroom is there, people will take advantage of it. Councilor Harriman?
Thank you. Yeah, just regarding locking, I'm sure there's a way that they can figure out a way to lock it from the outside. And the ones that I've seen that I think these are based on in Portland, it's not like a bathroom stall that you could crawl under if you wanted to. They have louvers at the bottom for ventilation, but the walls do go all the way to the ground. So if the door was locked, you couldn't get in.
Correct. We're also, one of the issues with a porta potty, and this is similar to that, it's just a little more permanent, is privacy. So we've had other vandalism and type of unappreciated activity when somebody's using the plastic bathrooms and drilling holes and doing all kinds of stuff. So this is much more secure. It is for privacy, so a person can utilize it. And I would agree with Councilor Gallant. The idea of this is people that are recreating there. There is a separate discussion and expectation that I agree with his position. We do have other issues with other population that this will not solve that. But if you're a family, if you're recreating in an area, and then now there's a public bathroom to utilize.
Councilor Chittum?
Thank you. Just to circle back to the final locations of these, you propose that this be subject to a public input.
We've had the need for fire hydrants should seem like a very basic thing, but I've had people very upset that we put a hydrant in their street space in front of their house. So we're talking about something a little more discreet placement. So The 7 locations: Oak Street Park, near Oak Street Parking Garage, Lincoln Street, Railroad Alley, Samara Payne Park, near the Fitness Court, Whipple Street, Winter Streets, Sunnyside Park, College Street, Pettingill School Park, Cedar River, Lionel Potbend Park, Bartlett Street, Mike McGraw Park. So each of those are what you're considering, but an actual placement in the park is something we'd want to come back to, let you weigh in and let the public weigh in as well. We'd have a recommendation, a couple sites that we believe would fit, so we just want to bring that back. And if you want us to charge ahead, then we can go that way as well.
But those are the general areas that have been established by some group somewhere. Was there public input into that?
Yes, so the previous Director Brenchick and I believe Director Dowdy, through public discussion with prior councils over the last 3 years, there was different iterations of public restrooms, different names of different size and configurations. I know I had done up an estimate that was going to be in a parking lot and have facilities and all of these things. So those had become, this is what we had in the fall based on a lot of discussion, and that's how we arrived at the 7 proposed right now.
Okay.
In the future, you could add more if you wanted.
Yeah, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here, but I wanted to make certain that there was public input. And I am, to be truthful, I'm reacting to an email we received today about Obscura. And the nearest facility would be at the Oak Street parking garage. And to Councilor Gallant's point, that's not going to solve the Obscura problem. So my thought was one in Dufresne Plaza. That avoids putting the pad there. It's central to downtown. But again, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I'm new here, and if this has already been thrashed out through the formal public process, then I'll accept those findings.
So I think Deputy Director Bates may have been part of the discussion with that if she wants to weigh in, but like I said, we can add more. We can move one. There's nothing here that, they're not quite as portable as the ones we rent, but it's nothing to say that it's we're not building a building and a foundation and tying things in. So having the containment being self-contained, we could move these, and we'll look at how difficult that is and get back to you.
Councilor Najin.
Just thinking about Dufresne Plaza, the alley, Park Street alley, is that back end supposed to be open or closed? Like, how is that supposed to work as far as, because right now I think we have like a Jersey barrier, or maybe we moved it, and I'm wondering if like we have gates that we were considering possibly to maybe even shut down access from outside of those buildings. If you're in one of those buildings, it makes total sense that you would be able to access that alley. But I'm wondering if there's any benefit at all to gating off Park Street Alley until there's some type of activity that would be, I think about like Providence, Rhode Island, and all of the side streets like suddenly became businesses. I think we're a ways away from that. But same thing in Portland. It's just a question.
Yep, we'll definitely look at that. I think we had some renovations going down there, and that's why that Jersey barricade was there. We've also had some stair issues, reconstruction of some of those, and safety issues. So we'll definitely look at access. But in the back of those buildings there are utility services and access to trash receptacles and things like that. So we can look at that further.
Yeah, people load in, or businesses bring in product and supplies, and yeah.
And businesses can have keys, and so can utility people. So,
further comments about this before we weigh in? And then, all right, how does the council feel about 7 bathrooms? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Gagne. Director Bates, Deputy Director Bates, thank you. Okay, Director Roy, anything else?
That will conclude.
Anything else from councilors? Councilor Chittum.
Yes, again, I'm not certain if this is the right time, but I'd like to take another quick look at the LCIP. Is that appropriate?
I believe it would be.
I would, again, strongly advocate that the lockers in the new police station be removed from LCIP and be funded through the drug forfeiture funds.
I mean, we can certainly, we have not finalized anything. We did a thumbs up, thumbs down on that. Be happy to do that again if the council thought that would be beneficial. Councilor Harriman?
Yeah, I would just wholeheartedly second Councilor Chittum's idea. I just think it's to borrow money to pay for things that we have the money for, that is set aside specifically for those things. I just think it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Councilor Najin?
I would just add on that overall, I mean, obviously, we can't compel the police department to do anything with the drug asset forfeiture funds. The increases that we've seen with the $33,000 per year in the rent, the dedicated cleaning staff for the new location, the 2 unfrozen positions and the new position, I would ask that there would be some type of help concerning what we bond. So,
Councilor Chittum?
Chittum, thank you.
I was
yes.
getting there.
I know you were, Mr. Mayor. To Councilor Najin's point, and now you've thrown me off. Was that intentional?
We still have lots of time. Do you want me to recognize Councilor Gallant and come back to you?
Yes, please, let me think of what I was going to say. It was important and it was pungent as well.
We will not go home until we recognize you again. Councilor Gallant, what did you have?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to wholeheartedly disagree. Again, he's already funded half of it out of his own money. Okay, it's the city's responsibility. It's not city money. It's money they obtain through a program that the government allows them to do. And I don't think it's fair to penalize them when that money can be used for other things that he thinks he needs. We're not police officers. We don't run that department. He gave quite a bit of that money away to help with this whole process. So I would wholeheartedly disagree. I would also say, the rent went up, so the next time the rent goes up somewhere else, we're going to penalize that department, take an employee away. That don't make no sense to me. I know that things are tight. This is not going to correct any money in our budget. It's not like it's $1 million that's going to make any great impact in that process. And the final question would be is, are we able to take money from him out of that fund? Director Roy?
It would have to be specifically used for certain items.
Thank you.
Councilor Chittum?
I remembered. Councilor Najin said, and I don't believe we can direct the police chief how to use that money. I believe that it's entirely his money, and perhaps Administrator O'Malley, with your experience, can weigh in on that. We can, however, say that we are not going to borrow money through the LCIP to fund these lockers.
Councilor Najin?
again, there's opportunities, I think, for revenue generation within departments, as well as opportunities to reduce costs for the city overall. And whether or not the drug asset forfeiture funds sit with the police department or not, the city taxpayers pay the police salaries and all of the other pieces. And so I do believe that any pot of money that can be used for equipment, I had wanted to see cars purchased from those funds and give 3 new officers. And I understand again that it's not my decision, but I think it's important to spend that money on equipment for the officers.
We're saying a lot of the same things we said a few nights ago. I'm going to recognize Councilor Roy, and then we're just going to get a thumbs up, thumbs down on this again. Councilor Roy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would agree with a lot of what's been said here. My concern here is that if we deplete that pot of money, and as a city we cannot provide what the police officers need, where do we go, right? So I think in the grand scheme of things, this 200 and some odd $1,000, is that going to make us or break us right now? If we take that from the drug forfeiture account, what's that gonna do?
The actual amount is $558,000.
Okay, so what is that gonna do for us?
So that will bring it down to, they're estimating, where they finish this year, they're estimating that they'll have about 700,000 left. So that would deplete them right down to 200,000.
That's my concern.
Are we ready to thumbs up, thumbs down this, councilors? Do you have something substantially different to say, Councilor Chittum?
Well, I do. If I look at the past practice or past expenditures, that's roughly the annual expense that's been drawn from the drug forfeiture, around $200,000. So that would give a one-year cushion. And we've heard several times from Chief St. Pierre that this money is drying up, and I don't understand where that concept is coming from.
I could explain that to you, Councilor Chittum, if you'd like.
Thank you, Administrator. I would welcome that.
What is occurring now with the drug forfeiture is the officers are now doing search warrants where they are recovering guns and recovering drugs, but they're no longer recovering cash. A lot of the folks that are now involved in this are using Venmo, using apps to pay. So they're having difficulty seizing actual cash. So they may get a whole lot of $500,000 street value worth of drugs and some guns, but the cash that they used to recover is no longer there. So what's happening is he's not replenishing his account. And I will agree with you, it used to be around $200,000. But when I was chief, we still had money coming in, so I kind of kept that account stable, so we would pay for some training, we would pay for when we have to get new cruisers. You never know if Dodge isn't going to make the car anymore. You have to go to a Ford, you have to go to a different one. You have to buy all that interior, the lights, the cages, all that stuff doesn't fit on the different cars. The officers with their guns, we have to replace those. It's not like, they don't shoot them, they go to the range, so those have to be replaced. So those are what he used those drug forfeiture funds for. So you can't supplant what's usually in your budget. That has to be specific for the police department. And there are certain criteria that you have to meet. Now, yes, they have to spend that money, but this money that they have, this was something that was supposed to come when I was police chief, and it took several years to make it through the courts. But we don't see that kind of money coming anymore that we used to get. Marijuana is now legal, so you don't have that money, which we used to get a lot of cash from as well. So I think that's where he's saying is they're changing, the criminal element is changing how they deal with things financially, as opposed to having cash on hand all the time.
Thank you. Could we get a Venmo account?
I know they're working on that with the special crimes there.
Okay, how do the councilors feel about, asking the police department? Did you have something else, Councilor Najin?
I was just going to add that with deference to Administrator O'Malley's position, then I would support bonding this.
Okay, thank you. So are we continuing to support continuing to bond this money? Keeping it in the, is this LCIP or fund balance?
LCIP.
We're keeping this in the LCIP. Is that what we're doing? And that is exactly what we're doing. Okay, thank you. Anything else, councilors? Director Roy. Administrator O'Malley.
I'm all set.
Okay. Director Roy, thank you so much for everything. Thank you to all the department heads out there, our loyal public, viewing public, and have a wonderful evening. We'll be back here next Tuesday. Councilor Najin, did you have something?
Just really quickly, what is the next public hearing phase that we have for the budget?
Tuesday.
That'd be May
Tuesday?
7th.
Tuesday, yeah.
And it has to be approved by us by when?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had Thursday, but we didn't have to, yeah. Councilor Chittum?
Yes, we haven't run into the supermajority issue, have we?
Yes, I believe so. Let me reopen that. Hold on. You will need a supermajority vote. Let me just open that back up.
Administrator O'Malley, when does the school budget vote happen?
That happens May 14th.
Thank you.
Absentee ballot.
So we're at 507, and the amount was 2.6. So yes, we will need a vote of 5.
And that's only on the municipal budget. We don't have any other than majority votes for any of the other issues.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And with that, Councilor Gallant.
Sorry, Mayor, do we want to do a thumbs up on that now? Because I certainly don't want to sit here Tuesday night going 4-3. So
Well, I
if we have
mean,
issues,
I-
we should discuss it now before we leave. You know, I have no issue with it, but if we don't get 5 thumbs on Tuesday night, it's going to be ugly.
Well, when one second, councilors, when I asked if there's anything else and nobody had anything else, I assumed that councilors were mostly okay where we've landed. Is that currently the case? Councilor Chittum?
I don't see that we have a choice. In order for us to get down to the simple majority, we've got to cut literally millions of dollars from the operating budget, and we can't do that. So our hands are tied. If we don't, by a majority of 5, approve this budget next Tuesday, I have no idea where the city's going to go. We don't have a choice. Our hand has been forced in this matter. And I could go on and on and on about who's doing the forcing, but I know that we all want to hang around here until 10 o'clock tonight or 11 o'clock, as we usually do, so maybe I should.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yes, and thank you, Councilor Chittum. Administrator O'Malley.
Our thumbs up and thumbs down are just more an informal direction to the finance director. I would prefer that you do not take a final thumbs up vote
Thank
for the
you.
budget tonight.
Yeah.
Make that decision, so you guys can make that decision on Tuesday night.
Yeah,
If
we
there's anything
can't-
else you'd like to discuss with the finance director, but she's got some direction from you of what she's going to present, and what she's going to present is that $33 tax rate, but please don't hold a vote tonight, thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah, this is a workship, and
Correct. Thank
Administrator
you.
O'Malley, we're on the same page. We're not going to have a vote before we have the vote, so. Councilor Najin.
For anybody listening at home, I would just suggest that you reach out to your counselor if you have any questions about this budget whatsoever, or if you have any concerns. It's best to raise these issues before Tuesday's vote.
But you're also welcome to come Tuesday and speak during public comment. Okay, councilors, are we ready to go? Okay. Director Roy, thank you. Department heads, thank you. The loyal viewing public, thank you. Administrator O'Malley, thank you. Dave, back there in the control room, thank you. Have a wonderful evening, Lewiston.